interesting contest. I think that just shows that DC is in good form right now. They had a really good result last week, beating Montreal. They turned it around in a short amount of time and go to Chicago, get another great result. I think it just shows how much parity this league actually has. It's actually kind of crazy that the Open Cup final is with literally the best team and the worst team in the league standings right now. But that shows you how close the gap is between the two. If you look at our standings right now, we're not far from, we're 2 points from second, we're 4 from first, and yet, depending on how games go in the next 11, we could be in a spot we don't want to be in. So it just puts that much more emphasis on how close this league is, and in particular how crazy this year has been for all the teams.
John, when you have a game like this, is it kind of ideal for a manager to have the players have that extra motivation? Because teams don't exactly like each other that much.
Yeah, it's true. You never know what's going to happen when DC and Philly play. So, but we're trying to stay really focused on the fact that we need to approach this game as a very important game, play it at home. We have 2 games, difficult games on the road coming up. That this is a game that is really important for us.
John, Jeff Park was saying his reaction after the Chicago game, training's been kind of chippy after you toss the pack. Is that good going to DC United, or is that not good?
I like the fact that our players are a little pissed off. They're upset with themselves. They're upset with our performance. They clearly knew that I was upset on Saturday, and I would say that Jeff was right. That it was chippy, to say the least. Comical in some ways that we were going at it as hard against each other, and maybe we didn't do that against Chicago to start the game. Clearly we ended well, but it was too little too late. So the guys, I think, had an opportunity to kind of download and put that game behind them now, and prepare for DC. And so the week has changed a little bit. Today was guys were smiling and focused and rested and prepared for DC, and I think we put that game behind us and are ready to move on.
John, the way that DC is getting this boost off the US Open Cup, it's got to be similar to the way that you guys kind of approached that cup into MLS last year. Does that help at all to understand where that motivation for DC is coming from?
Yes, I think we played DC already twice this year. Went down there, had a very difficult game, got a good result down there, played in the Open Cup and lost. So, I think we have probably a better respect for DC than most people just looking at the standings and the points and things. DC is also a different team. They've changed a lot of pieces in the last couple of months and have found themselves again. So we get that. We went through it last year, and we gotta understand that on any given day, no matter who comes into play, it is a huge challenge for us.
What kind of challenge does that present? The number of changes that they've made, what does that do for your preparation this week?
It changes our preparation because it's hard to plan for who they're going to put on the field, how they're going to do it. We have enough familiarity with each other to know, I think, that it's going to be a battle, that this rivalry is real, that the players take it very seriously, that it gets emotional at times. Our focus is going to be to try to remove all of those external factors from it and play against an opponent who we feel is in good form and do what we have to do to get 3 points on the day.
John, earlier in July, you guys hit the road for a couple of tougher games back like this. Does that help knowing what the fatigue and the emotional swing that DC's dealing with right now?
Yeah, I think all the teams in the league experience that at some point, and it's interesting. You look on paper, you talk to exercise physiologists, and they're going to say, hey, that's not the way you want to prepare. But from ourselves, looking at other teams around the league, sometimes having that little bit of a rhythm, if you will, of playing. You're not really training, you're playing again. You're not really training, you're playing. Gets a team just in a bit of a rhythm, and it's hard to combat sometimes. So, you juggle that with the fact that DC's a young team right now. Clearly guys are playing for their jobs next season. I think they've done a really good job. Ben Olsen and his staff have gotten this thing turned around a little bit. It presents a big challenge. It's not going to be the game that I think a lot of people thought a couple weeks ago that this was going to be an easy one to chalk up.
John, how do you get Gilberto move and where you see him fitting in, and NFL players this weekend maybe?
Gilberto is, we're happy that he's here. He was a good summer acquisition for us, but this is a move that we are looking to a little more long-term than an immediate need. I don't want to go into too much depth because there's a lot of reasons behind that, but we're going to give Gilberto time to acclimatize in all ways, to our club, to our program. We don't feel like we're in a desperate situation at all, Dave. We don't feel like we need immediate help. And therefore, I think that gives us a little bit more time to be patient with Gilberto and allow him that time to come to our club. And he hasn't played in several months. He needs time to get fit first and foremost, but to really have an adjustment before we really evaluate his contribution to the team on the field.
And your transfer window is a full. Are you happy with the people you brought in? Would you rather brought in other guys?
I'm very happy with it. It's hard to probably tell from an outside perspective because there's so many different factors going into it. What players are available, how much can you afford, what do you have on your roster, spots, how much salary cap do you have, all of those kind of factors that for the average person probably can't work through all those things. So if you look at the three guys we brought in, and we feel really good about those three guys. Oka's been good, Fabinho's contributed already, and now we have Gilberto, who we're very happy with and feel like it was an opportunity we couldn't pass up.
With Gilberto's skill set, do you see him as the central midfielder as a complement to Brian Carroll? Or do you see him maybe as like a long-term option to a guy like Brian?
No, I mean, Brian's our captain, so there's never a thought that this is somebody who would come and replace Brian. Could he complement him? Absolutely. He is a player that has great size, great athleticism, good work rate, good technically. So he brings a lot of qualities as a midfielder. But we have guys in the locker room that are like that as well. So it's a little bit complicated for us to try to rationalize all the reasons and why we brought him here, and that we want to give him some time and where we see him fitting in. I would just say that this was a chance that we couldn't pass up, and we feel like this is a long-term move for us.
John, you look at that center midfield position as it sits now. It seems like that's one of the spots that has the most competition, especially now that everyone's healthy between Parkman, Leo, Clutch, and all those guys.
Yeah.
What's that like for you on a weekly basis, kind of balancing the selection factors to fill that spot?
I think it makes it difficult for the coaching staff because we do have a number of guys in that same spot, but it's good in training that the competition's been really good. I don't want to, I feel good about the guys that we've played all year long. Clearly we've played the same kind of roster, the same players in and out. A couple weeks ago I would have told you we were really thin. We had guys away on international duty, some injuries, and we didn't have that many midfielders. Now all of a sudden we have a pretty good stable of them. So it makes our job in selection a little more difficult, but the competition and training is increased, and that's good for all of them.
John, going back to DC for a second, I guess at the heart of their turnaround this summer, they really jettisoned some of these foreign signings that they made. They went younger and they brought in some American guys. Can you talk about guys like Connor Doyle and Jared Jeffrey and just DC's strategy as a whole here?
Yeah, I think DC is similar to what we did last year, to be fair. You know, they, at least from an outsider's perspective, they look like they have made the decision to try to invest in the future, build on some young Americans, and I think that's great. I think more teams in our league should be doing that. I'm proud of the fact that I think we've done a good job of that over the last year. And certainly there's a lot of motivation for those young Americans to really step up given that opportunity. You see how our guys in our locker room have done it, and now I think you're seeing a little bit of how DC is at least, you know, reaping the rewards of some of that same philosophy.
John, just your thoughts on DC now. Last week was announced that they'll actually get their own soccer Pacific Stadium, what it means to you guys as a rival and just the league in general.
I think anytime any club in this league is announcing a new stadium, a soccer-specific stadium specifically, it's good for all of us. You know, I know they've been working extremely hard on that. You know, my mom sent me a little note the other day saying that on the front of the Washington Post was a picture of PPL, and I think that they were using that as, hey, we have our own kind of PPL now, which I think is great for our league, and certainly when franchises across the country are trying to emulate the environment that we have here. I think that only speaks of a very, very positive direction for the MLS.
John, when you look at Clemson's program trying to actually get back on the field in MLS, where does he stand, and matchup-wise, what is it that you're looking for to get him?
Well, we haven't really had the luxury of playing guys for the sake of playing them. Every game it seems like we're in a dogfight, and we're literally trying to really, and not that Cleverson hasn't been a huge part of that discussion. As a coaching staff, I just haven't felt it was the right opportunity for him. And to his credit, he continues to work really hard in training. He's 100% healthy. And I think he's just being patient, waiting for his chance. I think there's going to be a chance for him to really contribute in the next 11 games. And, you know, every time I talk to him or watch him train, I'm continually impressed with that kind of attitude.
What specifically goes into that notion of opportunity?
I think just the player that gives us the best chance to be successful. Cleverson is a big name. And I know there's a lot of people that have this huge expectation for him. You know, but he was brought here for a reason, and he has done everything we've asked. And when he gives us that opportunity to put him in the team, I'm quite confident that he'll be ready for it.
So every time he's been part of the 18 since coming back from that thigh injury, he's been 100% healthy. It's never pulling him out because.
Well, you know, a player that hasn't played in 2+ months, you're never going to be really 100% game fit until you get a full 90 minutes. So that plays a part of it for sure. The fact that we've been doing well, we had a really brutal stretch of tough games, and he wasn't a part of that at all. We were pretty good during that time. When you look at all of these factors, and you don't want to mess those things up. So that's what I talk about when I'm saying opportunity. You know, Cleverson, just like any other guy on our roster, is expected to come to work every day and contribute, and he does, and we're happy with him in that regard. But he has a role right now that he's playing within our team. We know that, it's very clear. Maybe other people don't know that, but we know that he'll be good when called upon.
And can you give an update on Ray Gaddis? What that means for being healthy handcuffed?
Yeah, it's Ray's been doing, our medical staff has been tending to him every day, 2-3 times a day. Ray's making great progress, but it's a tough injury. So right now, he ran a little bit at the end of training today, which is an extremely positive sign, but he's still got a long ways to go. So as it stands right now, Fabinho slotted into that position, and if Ray can continue to make the miraculous recovery he is, then he gives us another choice for Saturday.
you guys on the phone with questions?
Yeah, hi, John. Dan Walsh, Philly Conference. Two questions for you. First, just kind of following up on Gilberto. Today was last day of the summer transfer window. Do you expect that he is the last one coming in internationally?
Yes, we could always, as far as the summer transfer window, yes. But there's always an option to make some moves as the season progresses. So we'll see, but right now we're pretty set in our roster and feel comfortable with the guys we have in our locker room. We know how difficult the next 11 games are going to be. We're approaching it like it's an 11-game season. We feel like we are as prepared and ready with the guys that are in that locker room. Don't feel like we need to make any further changes. But also, Dan, one follow-up. It's not like we just can go out and make changes for the sake of changes either. We have, I've alluded to before, the roster, salary cap, money restrictions. So overall, I'd say that we're pretty close to being done right now.
Okay. And then the second question I have is kind of changing gears, more of a tactical question. Last night you had the game between Portland and Salt Lake, and then people were talking about their styles of play and so forth. I guess one thing I was curious about is how do you tactically approach with your midfield? What are the directions that are given to each of the different players and their roles? When you take your wingers, your midfielders, for example, what are the instructions typically given to them? What's their place in the scheme of things in this midfield?
So you want me to give you all of our tactical secrets to GC before we play DC?
Something like that, yeah.
Look, I'll give you
your philosophical approach.
Yeah, I'll give you an overview.
To their roles.
Each guy brings something different to the table, and as a coach, when you're talking to your team tactically, the players' attributes dictate some of the tactics that you play. With Sebastian and Cruz, we clearly have two guys that are very attack-oriented players in our midfield, and that changes our central guys dramatically. You have Brian Carroll, who's done over the course of his career, has been an extremely productive midfielder, specifically playing box to box and being a holding guy. So that puts an emphasis on whoever else is in there to be much more of the attacking kind of option. And without going into true specifics, I think I just gave you an idea of what we look at with our midfield and the type of formation we're playing right now. We certainly have many different options. If you throw Claverson into that mix, it changes things. If you throw a different kind of wide midfielder in there, different from a Cruz or a Latu, then it changes our tactics completely. And we've played with many different formations and systems based on who is on the field. So I hope that answered at least part of your question without me giving away too many secrets.
Yeah, it does. I appreciate it. I'm sorry to tap into the state secret space. I appreciate the answer.
No worries. Anybody else on the phone?
Yeah, this is Mark Margucci. I was wondering, with DC United having played in the U.S. Open Cup, do you feel that there's any sort of advantage in the fact that, you'll have a week's rest and maybe it'll come out a little fresher against them?
I think it's always scary when you go into a game believing that you have an advantage on your opponent. I like to prepare, and I think DC, thank goodness, has done a good job of showing everybody in our locker room, probably the fans as well, that they're a team that needs to be given a lot of respect right now. So we're going to prepare that we will get the best that DC has to offer on Saturday night. I think the rivalry itself has shown that you can kind of throw records out the window. It's a game we clearly need to win. DC doesn't have to do that. In fact, they have nothing to lose coming here. So a lot of little scary factors, and we'll use everything we can to to take advantage of what we think we can. But I don't think we should for 1 second think that we're getting any less than a team that's in really good form this Saturday.
Okay, thank you.